Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 136. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the afternoon of Saturday, August the 10th, from the James Strong studio in western St. Charles County. The podcast today, I have a guest in studio, and it's a guest that those of you who go way, way, way back on the James Strong Show probably remember. He was a friend of the show. In fact, he was our driver on the James Strong Show listeners party to the wineries years and years ago. He was around, and then he disappeared off the face of the earth, and he's back. Welcome, Mr. Daniel Daugherty.
Thank you very much, James.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Man, I've never been better.
And just to cue those of you who know Daniel and those of you who don't, we'll give you a quick history. When we met, you were living in Union?
Correct.
Union, Missouri. And you were an IT guy, a former IT guy, I think,
Correct.
at that time. And you drove buses to wineries.
Just one.
But singular.
Yeah, I just had one bus.
Yeah,
ran there on the weekends.
But you drove to wineries, you
Correct.
drove
Mostly
wedding parties,
weddings.
that type of thing. And living a good life, doing just fine. You had been fairly recently divorced, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were doing fine. You had a buddy who was a close friend of yours. You two had talked about, name was John, I believe.
Correct.
And you two had even talked about retiring together
Correct.
and doing your thing. And then just out of nowhere, your world kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
What happened? A little closer to the microphone, please.
Well, first of all, John died of bone marrow cancer, and then
Rather suddenly, kind of.
yeah, he got it, and it didn't last very long. But then after that, I had like 8 more friends die of heart attacks in their 50s.
So here you are. I'm not going to say midlife crisis, but we all hit a certain point in our life, and we realize that we're not going to be baseball players or football players. We're not going to be multimillionaires. And then our friends start to die. And that,
young.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And they're our friends, they're our peers, they're our age. And we think, well, can I be far behind? And strange things go through our heads, and strange things were going through your head at that time too.
Absolutely.
And you just fucking up and left.
I just fucking up and left to Montana.
Yeah. And nobody knew where you were.
No.
They asked me, you sure on Facebook, where's Daniel? Where did he go? And I said, look, I have no idea, but when he wants us to know where he is, he'll let us know. Let's back up just a little bit, because you had a little stint in there before you went to Montana.
Correct.
And after you were in the shuttle business.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a job, a management job of sorts, I guess we would say.
Yes, I was the manager of PT's strip club in Sauget, Illinois, right behind Pops.
And when you told me you were going to take that job, I said, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Here's a guy in his early, pushing mid-50s, who's having big time problems with life, and he takes a job running a shift at a titty bar.
The drama club.
What made you think? I have to ask you, what made you think that was a good idea? Let's start with that.
I'm not sure if I knew it was a good idea. I just knew that I was 54 years old and I had never been asked to manage a titty bar before.
Well, I mean, this isn't something that happens once or twice in anyone's life.
Exactly. I figured this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I'm going to give it a shot.
And you thought, how could this possibly be bad?
Right. I knew it would be somewhat dangerous, or it could be. Ended up not being too bad at all in that category, but a lot of drama, a lot of stripper drama.
Well, it was, I mean, not trying to paraphrase, but, maybe not dangerous from a physical standpoint, because you were the day manager, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you didn't see a whole lot of the drama.
Correct. The only drama I saw was girls that weren't making any money and they weren't happy about it. So they made sure they let me know about it all day long.
I mean, dangerous I'll just say dangerous on a man who perhaps has a bruised psyche to begin with.
Correct.
Would that be fair?
Yes, but I tell you what, though, the depression that I was suffering at the time, I really didn't have time to even think about with this job because the job was very demanding and it had a lot of hours. It was a minimum of 60 hours, and I was living downtown St. Louis. And when I went out, on the very little time that I had going out, I was treated like a rock star. Just everywhere I went because people knew from what I was wearing where I worked. And so they all treated me, buying me drinks. They knew I had tickets in my pocket. And so it was fun outside of the club, living downtown St. Louis.
Sure.
So I'm going to say that did help a little bit with the depression because I just didn't have time to be depressed.
Because you were spending 60 hours a week in the company of naked women.
Correct. Going down.
Beautiful naked women, for the most part.
For the most part.
Right. But with that comes drama. And I have to think that with that also comes manipulation. You're the boss, and so they may walk up to you with no clothes on and do something to persuade you to see things their way. I'm sure that happened.
Oh, every day when they wanted to go home early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I go home early? And they would always, I'd be sitting in the office and it was always real cold in there, winter and summer. And when they would walk in almost completely naked, the first thing I would go, "What do you want?" Because I knew they wanted something.
They just weren't coming in to see how your day was going.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're not giving them money, they don't like you very much.
Sure. Well, that's the other thing. You said some of these gals would, if you're going to be a stripper, here's two men talking about women strippers. So maybe we know something about this. Maybe we don't. But if you're going to take your clothes off and dance in front of men, you have to just do it for one reason, and that's for the money. But they don't always make the money. So what has to be going through their head if they do all this basically for free? It has to freak them out.
I felt bad for several of them. I felt like telling them, you either need college or Jenny Craig. But I did. I felt real bad when they couldn't even make enough rent money.
Who wouldn't make the money? Be fair. I mean, were the beautiful ones not making money?
No, the beautiful ones always made the money.
So the ones that were, let's be kind and say less than beautiful.
Correct.
So if there's...
Or less than skinny.
There you go. Okay. So if there's three stages and two of them have a beautiful woman on them, the other one does not, the other one doesn't make any money.
Well, I've not... While I was working, because I really didn't watch the crowd that much, I was too busy, but I've actually been in a strip club where the stage was completely surrounded by guys, and then they changed girls, and then every guy would get up at the same time and walk away.
That has to be demoralizing.
That has to be.
Here I am, all naked, and everybody leaves.
And everybody leaves.
Wow.
When they were just up here for the girl before me.
And people wonder why strippers have psyche problems.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But you did that for how long?
I did that almost a year.
And you made good dough at it.
When you did the math on how many hours that I worked compared to it, no, it wasn't that good at dough, but it was enough to,
At the end of the year, the paycheck looked pretty good.
Yeah, it was okay.
Okay. Okay.
And it had insurance, so.
Okay. But again, that's when... Shortly after that, or right in the middle of that, I guess, is when you had enough and you moved to Montana.
Correct. I just fell into a funk, and that's when I went off your radar. And that's when I went off your radar.
Yeah.
Just lived in a funk, lived in my sister's basement for a year. Just couldn't get out of bed. Just that depressed. Had some physical problems, too, that I found out about that was keeping me in the depression. But when I moved out to Montana is when I got health insurance.
So that's what you did. You
Right.
just said, "Fuck it, I'm leaving. I'm moving to Montana."
Correct.
Why Montana?
Well, I had a friend that lived out there, and I loved Montana for one thing, and I really didn't have a whole lot of other choices. To be perfectly honest with you, at the time, it was the best choice that I could find to at least get myself on a road, any road, maybe not even the road to recovery, but just any road off the road that I was on, out of the parking lot that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, just to help start me do something,
You needed a change of some type.
Correct. And I needed health insurance, and I knew that I could get a pretty decent, I didn't know, but I ended up getting a pretty decent job in Montana.
Okay. And why didn't you tell anybody where you were going?
I was probably just embarrassed about being in such a deep, dark depression. Of course, men, they feel like that's a sign of weakness. When someone else is in it, it doesn't seem like a sign of weakness, but when you're in it, it does.
Maybe your thought of the perception of others, and so it's embarrassing?
Correct. Oh, absolutely embarrassing, because many, many, many people don't understand it.
Why don't you just suck it up and
you see
get past it?
And
exactly.
In fact, I had a relative, say, get over it, and I'm like, oh, you bitch.
Yeah.
And so it was like that really pisses you off when people say stuff like that, because you know that they've never suffered any at all if they say just get over it, because you don't just get over it.
True depression, like when it's a chemical imbalance,
Correct.
is not the same as being bummed out because the Cardinals
having
suck
the
this
boo-hoos.
year. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. The Cardinals suck this year. I'm depressed. No, it's different than that.
Right. When it's a chemical thing and you can't get out of it for 24 hours a day, even when something good happens in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit, all the good shit that happens that we're going to talk about here, I still suffer some depression. That's, and I don't know why, but I still have some days where I'm down, even though my life is just great right now. And to tell you the truth, I recently found out how great my life has been since childhood.
Well, and you kind of found that out in Montana, and you were sick. And one of the big things I'm not going to say it's a fad, but it's the whole 23andMe thing, where you find out, you submit your DNA, and they tell you everything about yourself. You did that.
Correct.
And why did you do that?
I guess for two reasons. It was $10. It was $20 off at Walgreens. And
the typical tightwad Daniel. It's $30. That's too much. Here's a $20 coupon. Sold.
I bought two, one for me and my sister.
So you did it for shits and grins.
And I'd always, since I found out, actually, when I found out 5 years ago, when I first started driving the bus, that I had a son and two grandsons, because that's right at the time that I met Brian. I always
to back up, you were an adopted child.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I found out that I had a 26-year-old son and two grandsons 5 years ago, right at the same time I was meeting you.
Correct.
And
you're still in contact with them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I always felt bad, because his mom told him that I was adopted, before we met, and so I had no medical background to give him.
Right.
Just like I had none my whole life. I always had to put NA on my paperwork I filled out at the doctors. So I've just felt like, I might want to do this for him, especially since it's only $10.
Right.
And so I went ahead and bought one, and I did it.
And what road did that take you down that opened up this whole new avenue, this whole yellow brick road that you've stumbled upon?
Well, on December 5th of last year, it was when my results came back. I got off work and I went home. It was like 5 a.m. And the first thing that pops up is I have a sister and a brother and an uncle. Actually ended up being a gram.